Hey everyone, this is Neha from Edureka, and this session is all about test automation using Python. Let's have a look at the agenda for the session. First, let's understand what is Selenium and why it is required. Next, we will see why Python is preferred for automation testing. Once you understand this, we will move further and understand the binding between Selenium and Python. After that, we will discuss about one of the important tools to write Selenium script in Python, that is PyCharm. And we will also understand how to locate elements in Selenium. And finally, I will wrap up the session by automating Hotstar website in Selenium using Python. So I hope you guys are clear with the agenda. Kindly give me a quick confirmation so that I can proceed further. Alright, so let's get straight with the module. First, let's see what is Selenium. Selenium is an open source tool which is used for automating the tests that are carried out on web browsers. Wait, before you get carried away, let me reiterate that only testing of web applications is possible with Selenium. We can neither test any desktop software application nor test any mobile application using Selenium. So it is an open source tool that supports the cross-browsing and automates web application. Simple? Okay, now moving ahead, now let's see why do we need Selenium for automation testing. The main reasons are the test scripts can be written in any of the programming languages like Java, Python, Ruby, C#, .NET, etc. And tests can also be carried out in any of these operating systems like Windows, Mac, Linux, etc. And tests can be carried out using any web browsers like Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, Safari, Opera, etc. Not just that, it can also be integrated with tools like TestNG and JUnit for managing the test cases and generating the reports. And it can also be integrated with Maven, Jenkins, and Docker to achieve continuous testing. So these are some of the reasons that keep Selenium at the top when compared to other automation tools. And that's why it is a preferred tool for testing. Now let's see the market trends of Selenium. You can see in this figure the market trends from the past 10 years. And you can easily make out the growth rate from 2007 till date. By this, you can understand the demand for Selenium in the testing domain of the IT world. Now, let's move further and understand why Python is a preferred programming language for automation testing. Python is extremely simple and easy to learn. It's a very powerful language, and it closely resembles the English language. So what contributes to its simplicity? Python is free and open source. It is high level, interpreted, and blessed with a large community. And Python also has many built-in testing frameworks that covers debugging and fastest workflows. There are a lot of tools and modules to make things easier such as Selenium and Splinter. And it also supports testing with cross-platform and cross-browser with frameworks such as PyTest and Robot Framework. So testing is a tedious task and Python is a booster for it. So every tester should definitely go for it. With respect to that, let's have a look at the market trends for Python programming language. This graph depicts the market value of Python since past 5 years, and you can see the growth rate where it reached the peak maximum in the last year. And recently you can see the Python count as 98 in the recent day of March 9. So this implies the market value and demand for Python that is growing at a higher rate. So let's move further and understand the binding between both of them, that is Selenium and Python. Selenium Python bindings provide a simple API to write functional tests using Selenium Webdriver. Here what you can do is, you can simply write your functional test cases using Selenium Webdriver. After that, you send a request to Selenium server, and Selenium server then runs the test cases on various browsers. It can be Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, or Mozilla Firefox. So this is how it works. Now, in order to implement the Python with Selenium, we first need to import the Selenium Webdriver. So let's see how can we import Selenium Webdriver. Before that, let me tell you what is Selenium Webdriver. Selenium Webdriver is a web-based automation testing framework which can test the web pages that are initiated on various web browsers and various operating systems. You can import the WebDriver with the help of these two commands or just simply use the asterisk, that is this one. And that helps you to import all the dependencies that are required for the project. Now, without wasting any further time, let's talk about PyCharm. So this is an IDE where you can write the Python code or scripts in order to execute the test cases. You can use any other ID for the same, like you can use Jupyter Notebook, Shell, etc. Over here, I'm using PyCharm, so this is how it looks. Python is an amazing language which has various frameworks like Django, Flask, etc. You can also customize it with themes and plugins, and it also lets you to enhance the productivity while coding by providing some of the features like suggestions, local VCS, etc. Now, let's see what are locators in Selenium. The locator can be termed as an address that identifies a web element uniquely within the web page. Locators are the HTML properties of the web element which tells Selenium about the web element that needs to perform the action on. And Selenium uses locators to interact with the web elements on the web page. Now, there are diverse range of web elements like text box, ID, radio button, etc. And identifying these elements has been a very tricky subject, and thus it requires an accurate and effective approach. And thereby we can assert that more effective the locator is, more stable will be the automation script. Essentially, every Selenium command requires locators to find web elements. Thus, in order to identify these elements accurately and precisely, we have different types of locators like ID, name, link text, CSS selector, partial link text, and XPath. So let's get into the details of all these types. First, ID locator. The best and the most popular method to identify web element is to use ID. The ID of each element is alleged to be unique. IDs are the safest and fastest locator option and should always be the first choice even when there are multiple choices. For example, it is like an employee number or account number which will be uniquely identified. Now let's see how to use ID locator with the help of example. So first I have created a simple file in Python, that is Hotstar. And the very first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to import the WebDriver. So I'm going to write it like from Selenium import WebDriver. Simple. So once I import the WebDriver, the next step is to launch the Chrome driver. So I'll create a new element called driver is equal to. So my WebDriver will be Chrome. And this is the path where I have saved my Chrome driver. Okay. Next, I will use driver.get method and give the link of hotstar.com. Because I want to locate the elements that is present in Hotstar, so that's the reason I'm giving this link. So here I will navigate to Hotstar website and locate this search box. First, what I will do, I'll inspect on this. And you can see it has a ID attribute whose value is search field. So I'll just copy this value. Now the next step is to write the script in PyCharm. So I have already imported the WebDriver and I've launched the link and also have registered my Chrome driver. So once this is done, the very next step is to locate the elements and perform action on it. So what I'll do, I'll use driver.findElement by ID. And the value of ID is search field. And I want to send keys as movies. Okay. What I'm doing here is I'm finding the element by ID attribute whose value is search field and I'm sending the value to that search field as movies. So I'm going to run the program. Let's check what will be the output. So Chrome driver launched Google Chrome, navigated through hotstar.com and entered the value as movies in the search field. So you can choose from any of these movies. Okay. Sounds much simple, right? So this is how you can locate the elements using ID attribute. Next one is name locator. This is also an efficient way to locate elements with the name attribute. After IDs, you can give it your second preference. But likewise, name attributes don't have to be unique in the page. With this strategy, the first element with the name attribute value that is matching the location will be returned. If no element has a matching name attribute, then no such element exception will be raised. Let's see it's working. It's almost same like ID attribute, but the difference here is that instead of ID, you have to use a name attribute. So what I'll do, I'll just navigate to google.com and inspect the search box, and you can see it has a name attribute whose value is Q. So I'll just copy this, open my PyCharm. I'll just comment this first and I will write driver.findElement by name, whose value is Q. I want to send keys as Selenium. And also, I want to give this search as well. So again, that has a name attribute whose value is this. So I'll copy this. I'll just paste it over here. As it is a button, I'll use click method because it is not a text box to send the values to it. So I'm just using click. Let's run the program and check the output. So you can see it gave the search for Selenium. Simple. So this is how you can use name locator. Moving forward, next is link text. All the hyperlinks on the web page can be identified using link text. The links on the web page can be determined with the help of an anchor tag. Now, the anchor tag is used to create the hyperlinks on the web page, and the text between the opening and closing of anchor tag constitutes the link text. Now let's see how it works. Now let's switch back to Hotstar and try to locate on this particular link that is useful in locating the elements. Next, let's move to the last locator, that is XPath. So this is my favorite locator. XPath, also called as XML path, is a language to query XML documents. It consists of a path expression along with some conditions. Now let's understand the working of XPath. Now here I want to perform action on this login button. So what will I do? I will write the XPath for this. As I have already added the CrowPath extension, I need not manually write XPath for this particular element. Instead, I will find it using CrowPath. CrowPath is basically a tool that is very helpful to find XPath and CSS selectors. If you wish to know more about it, you can check my video on new features of CrowPath in our YouTube playlist. Now, I will copy this XPath and paste this value in my script. So first I will write driver.findElement by XPath. In this, I'll paste the value. As it is a button, I'm just clicking on that. Okay. Next, I want to enter the email address and password as well. So, in case of this, it has a name attribute whose value is email. So I'll just copy that. So I'll write driver.findElement by name and pass the value as email. And I will give send keys and pass the value of the email as aishi@edureka.co, and I'll again inspect this password field, and it has an ID attribute. Even I can use the CrowPath as well. So you can see the CSS selector, there's an absolute XPath and there's a relative XPath. So what I'll do, I'll copy the relative XPath and I'll write find element by XPath and pass the value, and I'll give password for that. Next, I want to click on this button. So again, it has a class that is button sign, but I'll again copy the XPath for that. That is, it starts with a type whose value is submit. It has a button tag and the attribute is type whose value is submit. So I'll copy this. I will paste it over here. Click. Okay. So now when you run the program, it will first click on the login icon, then enter the value for your email and password. After that, it will click on the login button. Now let's run the program and check the output. So when I execute the program, you can see it navigated through hotstar.com, clicked on login, entered email address and password, and clicked on login button. Clear? Much simple, right? So that's how it works. So this is all about XPath and various types of locators. Now, what is the preference for the locators? So basically, ID is given the first preference because it is unique. Even name as well, because even that is also considered as a unique locator. Next, XPath and CSS selectors are given the second preference. Why? Because in some complex situations where ID and name are not available, we have to create dynamic XPath. Next, link text is useful only for links. So I will give the third preference and partial links as my fourth preference. Now let's do one thing. Let's navigate through Edureka blog page and perform some actions on it. So I wish to search the blogs for Python. So what I'll do, I'll inspect this page and I will write it using CSS selector because it has an ID attribute whose value is search input. So I'll just copy that and I will write the code like this. So first, basically, I will import the WebDriver. I'll launch Google Chrome and then I will use the driver.get and launch the link, that is Edureka blog. And then using CSS selectors, I'll use the search input. I'll give the value of CSS selector as search input and send keys as Python. Now let's run the program and check for the output. So you can see it launched Edureka blog page and it entered the value as Python. So you can see there are so many blogs for Python, there are videos, there are interview questions, etc. Next, what I want to do is I want to click on this interview questions link. So I'll just click on inspect. I'll copy the link text, that is interview questions, and I'll go back and write the code. Click. Let's run the program. So you can see it clicked on interview questions, and you can find many of the interview questions for your preparations if you wish to. Now say I want to subscribe on this Edureka channel. So what will I do? I'll just inspect this and I will copy the XPath for that. Go back to my PyCharm, write it by XPath .click. Okay. So as this is a very complex XPath query, so with the help of ChromePath, it's very simple for us to find the XPath, or else manually writing such a big XPath is very complicated. So you can see it launched Edureka website and it will now click on the subscribe button. Yes, I want to. So next I can proceed further with my email address, everything. Okay. So that's how it works. I hope you understood the concept of locators and how to automate it using Selenium in Python. So that's all for this session. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any queries, you can comment it and we will reply back to you at the earliest. Thank you and have a nice day.